guests and experts to share their unfiltered truth about the journey to self-actualization and the path to heart-centered leadership. You'll hear raw lessons, learn ancient wisdom, and practical steps to rise to your fullest potential. Now is the time to walk into this new paradigm of leadership. Let's transcend together. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Transcendent Leadership. I'm your host, Carissa Johnson, and I hope you are doing so well today. I just want to take a moment to acknowledge you for listening or watching this show. As of late, I have had a tremendous amount of clients contact me or people get in touch with me to become clients because the last couple of weeks have been really intense. In some ways, it might feel like your life is falling apart, whether things are coming to surface in your relationship and you're questioning whether you want to still be married or in a relationship, or things are falling apart in business where a client might not be re-signing or something's happening with your team. I am hearing it all right now. I'm hearing it all right now. And I am also with you in that journey, which is part of what I'm going to share in today's podcast. But I just wanted to first start off by acknowledging you, because in the podcast, we talk a lot about ways to be better, ways to reach your potential, ways to elevate your consciousness, to deepen in love, etc. But I don't know the last time, if ever, I really talked about celebrating just being exactly where you're at right now and letting that be enough, and really acknowledging sometimes the effort and the courage that it takes just to get out of bed and start another day. So before we even dive into all of this juiciness, I want you to just take a moment and put your hand on your heart and take a deep inhale in through your nose. Hold at the top and exhale out. And just bring all of your awareness to this moment, to this human experience, to what you're navigating right now. Bring all of your love, all of your awareness, all of you to that. And just say to yourself, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I thank you, body, for helping me through these challenging times and giving me energy. I thank you, mind, for giving me the ability to solve problems and to think through things. I thank you, heart, for guiding me and beating effortlessly. I thank you, God, creator, for providing for me. I thank you. I'm so proud of me. I'm exactly where I need to be, and all is well. All is well. All is good. All is in my favor. Aho, amen. All is beautiful again. Hajona eshkli. Hajona eshkli means to walk in the way of beauty, friend, meaning that being in right relationship with self and with creator. And so you can take your hand off your heart. Hopefully you weren't closing your eyes while driving. I want to offer that disclaimer that I did not want you to do that. And thank you for just being really present. And part of the reason why I bring that up for today's episode and conversation is because I've been doing so much of that. And also my clients, I just notice being an intuitive, being a channel, doing the kind of work that I do in the world with spiritual guiding and coaching and mentoring and healing, I see a lot. I see patterns a lot. I see themes a lot. And oftentimes we think that we're the only one going through something. And I can tell you from having over 4,000 hours of client work up until this point, probably more than that, that's what I could calculate at this point, is that there are often themes and patterns that happen astrologically, collectively, and as well as individually, that are important to look at. And I've been more than ever doubling down on my tools. And if you watch my lives that I do almost every weekly called Leading Insight, I offer collective energy readings talking about the energy, talking about how to use the energy and be aware of it to help you in your leadership, your life, your business, your health. And it's been profound for me and many people to understand what's happening in the world and in ourselves, and particularly spiritually in our ascension process. And the last couple of weeks, and I think the next couple of weeks, maybe when you hear this, it might be complete, but we are really being invited to go into the toolbox and to utilize all of our tools right now: breath work, grounding, community, rest, coaching, journaling, ice baths, whatever it is. I feel this more important than ever before. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this is not only just because I'm using these tools and things right now more than ever, but is the reason behind why I'm doing it. And if you watch my social media, you might know that I am moving again. And I have felt and currently feel a little annoyed by that. I signed a lease at a place, a beautiful condo that I'm at right now, and my landlords want to Airbnb my property. I don't blame them, but it's just unfortunate that it didn't work out for me to stay. And so there was a lot of frustration. And then there was excitement around the new place that I'm moving into. We're going to have a podcast recording studio in the home. And so I'm looking forward to that, to have guests, etc. There's a lot of really cool guests that we're going to be having in person, as well as many conversations I'll be doing solo in that space, which is really exciting. But the reason why I wanted to talk today with you is because I have been challenged by something that hasn't come up for me in a couple of years. And it is something that I think is underrated. And it is something that I think once you learn how to master within yourself, your entire life can change. This has been a topic for myself, my clients in the group healings that I've been doing. And it is, I think, what collectively we are going to need to learn how to do in order to get through this ascension process, as well as the changes that are going to be happening in the next couple of years around transitioning to this new earth. And this new earth, meaning that we are becoming more light, we are becoming more love, we are learning how to work in community and collaborate. Old structures of domination and of suppression are crumbling. So we're really entering into a new era, but that doesn't mean that on our way there, we're not going to encounter challenges. If anything, sometimes things get challenging so that those structures can crumble permanently. And what this concept is, it's learning how to cultivate safety within yourself and regulate your nervous system. And in another episode, I'll actually go through tools on how to do that. But today I want to talk about the importance of safety and the importance of regulating your nervous system. And of course, you know how I roll. I want to tell you a little bit of a story. And I really feel like many of you are going to resonate with this. And you might not have been aware that this was in your field or an imprint in your human experience until I share this story. So, I recently started working with a new practitioner around nervous system regulation work. I have a background in clinical psychology. I've done somatic work. I know about the nervous system and I know tools, but I wanted to deepen in this process. And on one of the calls, she asked the group of us a question, and the question really sparked something very unusual to me. And so she asked, if you had been given $10 million, how would you feel? And I tuned into my body, and the sensation that I felt was there was a sense of relief, of course, which many of us would feel, but there was also a sense of boredom. If I was just provided for completely, I started to feel like I would be bored. And this sensation, this question got me really thinking. Is there a part of me that believes that safety is boring? And I've been really sitting with that and really reflecting on that and noticing where in my life I have created situations that were likely unhelpful in order to create the sensation of aliveness. This has shown up in my life in a way of scarcity. And you might be thinking, how does scarcity relate to boredom, etc.? And how this showed up and how I've been working with this and understanding this is upon reflection, I noticed that and believe that, and now I'm working even on a deeper level that I have a really high risk tolerance. I am willing to put it all on the line for what I believe in. Many have reflected back to me that it's really courageous. My family has sometimes said that I am crazy. And some people have just looked at me inspired that I have a high risk tolerance and they label it as courageous. So it is a gift of mine to be able to withstand uncomfortability as well as be okay not feeling safe entirely. Truth of the matter is we're always kind of in this reality that's not entirely safe, but it's up to us to choose to feel safety in every single moment. And upon looking at my life, I reflected back and noticed that there were so many times, I could probably point back to at least 5 times in my life where I had grown exponentially, where there was like money coming in, things were selling out, all these things were happening in my life that on the surface would be looked at as like huge milestones I was reaching and incredible. And then all of the sudden, I would find myself in a situation where it seemed as if everything was falling apart, whether that be all of a sudden I felt different about client work or my relationship. I started causing fight. I started getting in more fights, not realizing that I was causing the fights. And or money would just fly out the window. And a lot of people who talk about money mindset may say, "Oh, you don't feel worthy of it," or you create all sorts of stories around why you believe money you can't keep money. I for sure thought that it was my management of money or that it was my belief systems around worth. I certainly did believe that. But looking back and really sitting with this concept around safety, I now see that I believe a part of me, let's be clear about that, is actually a part of me. It's not all of me, it's a part of me believes that safety is boring. That the aliveness, the passion, the excitement that I love and crave in my life is usually when I feel the most unsafe or uncomfortable. And again, this is where I have excelled in my life because I have a high risk tolerance. So, in many ways, discomfort and lack of safety is what's familiar to me. It is what I know, it is what I create. So, what I do have what I have done and what I'm working on no longer doing, or what I'm sitting with or learning how to not do, is not blow things up or not create difficulties or arguments or discomfort when I'm actually starting to find more safety within myself. This is part of the journey I went on a few years ago when I took 5 months off of work and I allowed myself to really cultivate safety within myself. It's part of the reason why I also wanted to go nomadic, because I wanted to challenge myself to not have a home or all my things and still figure out how I could feel safe regardless of what's happening around me. And I did. I reached many different levels of cultivation within myself, but this is a new level. So I looked at this and I saw that safety for me is boring, and that in situations where life begins to feel settled, where life begins to feel safe or more manageable, I will subconsciously, a part of me will subconsciously create a situation that therefore requires me to experience discomfort, feeling unsettled or unsafe. And as I'm saying this, I'm curious how many of you feel like that might be possible for you too. Because if somebody gave me $10,000 and told me I never had to work again, I wouldn't know what to do with myself. I'm a generator. I'm an Aries. I have a lot of fire. I have a lot of energy. I'm an Enneagram 2 wing 3. I could give you all of my personality types, but fundamentally, I have a lot of creative power and energy. If I didn't have to work again, it would be exciting for maybe a couple of weeks. And then, to be honest, I would get really bored. Okay. So I realized that safety is unfamiliar for me. And so what is familiar is unsafety. And I was creating and leaning into the gift of mine, which is to thrive in unsafety and have a high risk tolerance and be okay with the discomfort. But it's also not supportive or sustainable for the long term. And so I've been asking myself really simple questions about what I believe around safety. And that is one of them. And as I've tuned into the reality and truth that there's a part of me that loves chaos and there's a part of me that loves passion and uncertainty, it's been a little bit of a challenge to work with this energy. And since I've realized this, I noticed that as I'm getting ready to move again, as I was on one hand, I'm craving this being settled, living in a home for longer than a year or so. There's also been this part of me that I'm noticing that wants to throw a wrench in it, wants to disrupt it, wants to do something that's going to radically shake up this entire experience. And so you might be asking, okay, well, if that is true for me, what do I do now? And I'm going to record another episode that's going to walk you through some practices to cultivate safety within yourself. But the thing I want to invite you to do in this moment is to connect with that part of you and get to know that part of you before you try to do anything with it yet. Because for me, that part of me, if not acknowledged and if not seen and heard, will literally create destruction. She will destroy. And I love her and I've gotten to know her. But when we shame that part, when we dismiss that part, when we don't acknowledge that part of us, it runs rampant. It's kind of like a child who is crying and desiring for support or love or acknowledgement or play or has a need, right? And the parent doesn't acknowledge that child, what happens? That child gets even louder, gets even more destructive and crazy and emotional because they want to be seen. So, just like the little child that I'm discussing, we have that little child inside of us. And underneath the creation of destruction or unsafety or whatever, there is ultimately a need that that part has. And for me, that need that that child has is yes, this part of me wants safety. However, I also want and need adventure. So, when the child has a need, the inner child has a need for adventure, if that child is not given an opportunity to channel or have that need met in a healthy space container, that is when the craziness happens. So if you can get to know this part of you and understand what the need is, basically by building a relationship, so acknowledging the part of you that exists. Number two, connecting with it, communicating with it, checking in with it, asking it what it needs, and then meeting the need in a safe way, then you'll have a better and easier time cultivating safety within your physical body in your wholeness because you are including that part of you. So, how this might look is if we're really using me as an example, which we are, and I will always be an example, the part of me that needs adventure, what I do is I create things for her to feel adventurous. The reason why she has felt disruptive is because lately I have been working a good amount. I am moving. I just got home from Colombia. There have been podcasts I want to batch and record. There's new guests that are going to come on that I'm excited about. We've been hosting healings. There's talk about a retreat. There's a lot of different things happening in my world. And so my plate has been very full. So the inner child in me is like, I want play. I want adventure. Hear me, hear me, hear me. And so what I have done and what I'm doing is giving her that. So going out and taking hikes in the middle of the day when it feels like, oh, I should be working, right? It's not just, oh, I'll do a hike on a Saturday. I'm intentionally doing it at a time when it feels like it's kind of breaking a rule, right? Because that's the adventure that I want. I don't want just to be out in the wilderness. I want to be out in the wilderness when it's like no one's supposed to be there. I should be working, right? So creating a situation and experience for that need to be met allows that part to be seen and then really inhibits them from wanting to create destruction, craziness, chaos in your life. So I share all this to say we are human and we are incredibly complex, multidimensional creatures. And the mindset work around, oh, you feel safe, just tell yourself that you're safe is really dismissive of the enormity of the importance of the body and the spirit. You cannot tell yourself that you're safe enough for your body to believe it. Said a different way is that no matter how many times you try to tell yourself that you're safe, you cannot, from a verbal language perspective, convince yourself you are safe. You have to actually feel it. You have to feel that you are, in fact, safe. And so there's exercises that, again, I will be sharing that can bring you into that state. But telling yourself that you are safe is not enough. And it's dismissing the part of you, the younger part of you that doesn't feel that way or actually likes a little bit of craziness, which is exactly what I'm sharing with all of you. So today I invite you to really journal on this question. What do I believe about safety? When I think of safety, what comes to mind immediately? If somebody were to give me $10 million, how would I feel? And really build the relationship and the awareness around what is existent in your field around safety, and then you can work with it. But if you just believe that you always feel unsafe, which is literally what my most of my life was, I realized that I was operating in survival for about 90% of my life. So no matter how much money I had, no matter how held I was in a relationship, no matter, how safe people thought I was in my home or my environment, I constantly felt like this fear of something was going to happen because there was a part of me who literally wanted to create something crazy to happen because it felt exciting. But if I didn't take time to get to know that part, I would have never known that because it's not just about feeling safety, it's about the needs underneath the part of you that is creating situations that are unsafe. This is deep work. This is really where our collective is needing the most support right now is around these trauma responses, these unregulated nervous systems that are causing us to behave, speak, and act in ways that are contrary to how we actually want to be really showing up in the world. But that doesn't mean that we totally bypass or dismiss them. It means we get to know them, we embrace them, we love these parts of ourselves. And I want to share something that I saw on social media the other day, and I wish I could give credit to the person. I don't actually know who it was, but it was something along the lines of self actualization and shadow work is not about becoming our highest self and our potential. It is about loving ourselves in the mess, loving the parts of ourselves that feel unlovable. That is self actualization. That is realization. That is reaching our potential, is not just focusing on the strengths that we have, but also on the weaknesses that we have and loving that part of us. So, where can you bring in more love into the parts of you that you're now becoming aware of have been running the show like an unsupervised child? Where can you bring more awareness to your human experience where when things start to happen that way, you become the witness of the experience and not consumed by the energy of, oh my God, my world's falling apart? You can take a step back and look at your reality and say, where is a part of me literally creating this? This happened recently with me as I'm also calling in partnership. There's a lot of feeling unsafe in connection that I have been working with. And I attracted a really weird situation. And I talked about this in the last episode when I was at Mind Valley, where there was this guy who came into my life. And I immediately saw all of the patterns and the things that I've attracted in the past. And instead of being like, why, instead of projecting onto this guy, he's a bad person or whatever, because I don't fundamentally think he is, I asked myself, because I'm attracting it, and I said, where is he in this experience mirroring back to me what I am? And what part of me is wanting this to happen? Because we attract what we are and we attract what we want. So there must be a part of me that wants this, and there must be a part of me that also is and embodies the things that I'm seeing and I'm noticing. Otherwise, I wouldn't, because of the laws of resonance. So this is about relationship. This is about right relationship with you and your body and your nervous system and the parts of you that you might not have been aware of. That's what this awakening is about. It's about recognizing all of these parts of us. And again, going back to what I said a moment ago, loving them. So I invite you to take some time today and really sit with that, savor it, let it sink in with you, and see how you can just become more aware of these parts and not try to get rid of them, but integrate them into yourself. That is what wholeness is about integrating parts of ourselves and really allowing all parts of you to be loved, all parts of you to be welcome, and be the parent and kind of reparent yourself and provide the needs for that part of you that wanting something, not shaming yourself for wanting it, but creating a healthy container and situation where the need can be met, and you will watch your entire life transform, because that unmet child, that unseen child, is not going to be driving the ship into the rock. Okay. So I hope this inspired you and is inviting you to go deeper with yourself. In the next episode, I'm going to share with you a couple of practices that will help you feel more embodied, more regulated, and more supportive, so that you can actually work with this part in a more practical way as well. So thank you for tuning into this episode, and I'll chat with you next week. Bye bye.